I don't need the camera. Okay. Thank you. I don't know what you did, but thank you.
Come on. Rabbi Bauman, can you hear me?
Second. Yes, I had muted myself already.
Hi.
How you doing?
How are you?
Good, Baruch Hashem. Nice to meet up with you at a simcha.
Yeah, exactly.
How's everybody?
Thank God. This is my son Jonah, who's just bar mitzvah about 2 weeks ago. So
Mazel tov.
Introduce you. Yeah, I just said.
I used to know about family simchas. I didn't, Oh, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Shall only have nachas.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing? You good?
Thank God. Everyone's doing great.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Rabbi Bauman.
Hi there. Mazel tov.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Mazel Tov.
Hi.
Thank you.
Okay.
You want to set Mom up?
I don't know if they want us muted or not. Yeah.
Yeah, we can mute.
Hello, everybody.
No, he didn't feel comfortable going over that.
Oh.
Is there a password?
No.
Send it to my email?
Hello, Mark.
You have to move this table. Wait, this way. Table got the have you guys over here. Yeah. Hi, Esther. Thanks so much for coming. Just thinking out.
While you're waiting, let's watch the train.
We're here. Good morning, everybody.
Hi, how you doing? Hi, God. How about you?
Morning.
I keep forgetting about the 4 o'clock Sunday class.
Morning, everybody. Good to see you. Is that Jonah, the bar mitzvah?
So much.
Wow.
He's on Maurice, Ethan, Ari, and Jonah.
I know.
How are you, Rabbi Bauman?
Who is this guy?
This is Rabbi Bauman's, his brother is
How are you?
finished.
Good. How are you?
Okay?
So nice.
So where are you? Here you are. Okay, Mom?
Hi, Grandma.
They're waving to you, Ari and Jonah.
Thank
Wave to them, Mom.
Yeah.
You have to wave to them.
Yeah, he knows about it.
Hello.
Grandma.
Oh, yeah.
Grandma there. Hi, Grandma.
Who set this up? Did I?
What do you think?
Yeah.
I can ask Louise to mute everybody. Let me see.
I don't know if it's necessary, really. I don't know if it's
This is Ari, looks like Kobe.
I can. I'll ask her. Too. It may be better.
Ari.
I don't see him.
Plate? There's tuna and egg salad.
okay?
Yeah, he's fine. Ronaldo, tuna, egg salad. I'll just give him everything. Bagel.
Are you able? It's not urgent, but if you're able to mute everyone.
Okay.
You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be better.
I'm going to move this chair.
Okay, perfect. Not me personally, Lifer, right? Holden Lifer. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, she'll set this up.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Ari. He put on the weight.
Hello, Ann. Hi, Ann.
Should I just mute her?
No, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. I'm just going to lower.
You're the host now?
But anyway, I just lowered the volume. So this way you're not going to be able to hear anyway.
Okay, that works. Perfect. Okay.
You know these people. This is Ari.
Yeah, he's waving at you.
Yeah.
Hi.
And this is her nephew,
Okay.
Lifer. Ethan, you know who they is.
Mm-hmm. He's a neighbor.
I had a bagel.
Bring it over.
That's okay.
Okay.
Oh,
good.
they are. I see they're having the whole thing covered. There was a guy outside taking care. And he is
Okay, yeah.
taking the whole thing.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Out there? I'd like to begin by welcoming everyone who is here in person to our home, in addition to those joining on Zoom. If anyone doesn't know me, I'm Alden Leifer, and I don't know, what's the rule?
Can't hurt.
Okay,
I would not prosecute in the presence of Dr. Cook.
okay. I'm not sure that Benji Tarragon has joined us from Israel on Zoom, but I hope he does, because he was really the driving force behind the origin of our morning Mishna Chabura over 15 years ago. I believe he approached Rabbi Rothwax with this idea, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Can anyone hear me?
Benji made Aliyah
Okay.
a couple of years ago and continued to keep pace with us with our learning. And we missed him before weekday morning chakras, but he made his own Siyum a couple of weeks ago in Israel. And some of us here, part of the Chabura attended his Siyum on
Sarah
Zoom.
Lifer.
But, this would really not be complete without Benji. Our program today will hopefully be relatively short. I mean, I'm really thankful for the weather. Last week, most of the week, if we looked at the extended forecast, it said it was going to rain this morning, and then it was going to be cloudy. I was kind of hoping for clouds because the sun is can get intense, but it is what it is, and we'll be thankful that it was not raining, although we did have Plan B, and I want to thank Rabbi Cement for offering and allowing us, if we needed, to use the tent in the back of his shul. So we're going to have short presentations from myself, Ira Bauman, and Danny Chazen. Danny will learn the final Mishnah, and Ira will say the Hadran. Yochanan Hirsch, who is the final member of our Chabura, a very important member as he did more than his fair share of Kachim and Taros. He made a Siyum a few weeks ago on the occasion of the yahrzeit of his mother, but he is here to cheer us on along with his grandson. But first of all, and very importantly, we'd like to lead off with Rabbi Rothwax to say a few words for this occasion.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I think I broke this already. Right there. Teach me. Don't touch somebody else's pulpit. That's the bottom line. Okay, I don't need it. I don't need it. I'm so sorry. Okay, good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here for Shus Rabbi Cement. And the weather is just so beautiful, so lovely, and so much appreciated, because to a certain extent, it really does capture the spirit, which at this moment is one which brings many of us, all of us, I hope, a tremendous amount of joy. Several weeks ago, I had a conversation with a young woman who is in the process of dating. And she was having a bit of a, I won't say it's a crisis, but she was at a point where she was making a very important decision, not about a particular young man, but just in terms of a derech in life. And I don't want to give too many details away because it's not relevant in terms of this particular individual, but what she was struggling with was that she had always assumed, or at least since she was thinking about dating and how she was going to spend the rest of her life, she assumed that she would marry a person who was a rabbi. She would marry a person who was in chinuch, a person who's rabbanos, as we call klei kodesh. And the reason that was so important to her is because she had assumed that the only way that you can really be sure that your home is going to be a home which is infused with Torah, the only way that you could be certain that your husband is going to learn is if he's a rabbi. Because if he's a rabbi, he has to learn. He has to do it in order to, to get his paycheck. I mean, to be frank, it's part of his job. There's no way around it. So I had a conversation with her, and I tried to help her understand that I think there were two fallacies in her thinking. Number one, just because somebody is a rabbi, and just because they're in chinuch, or just because they're involved in klei kodesh, doesn't necessarily mean that that individual is a ben Torah in every sense of the word. While it is true that it would be hard to imagine a situation where a person could perform his professional duties and responsibilities of a rabbi if he never opens a sefer, but just because somebody opens a sefer to prepare for work doesn't mean that this individual is necessarily conveying to the members of his family at all times, in every way, that this is something that I really, really, really value as a person. This is how I choose to spend my free time. That this is the most important thing to me in the world. On the other hand, I said, I have seen, I'm not going to say I've seen countless, because that would be untrue. But I have seen many individuals who are professionals involved in what we call at Yeshiva Lei Kodesh. These are individuals who are dentists, or who are accountants, who are eye doctors, individuals who have all different sorts of degrees and professional responsibilities, and they somehow find the time each and every day to be Kaveya Itim LaTorah. I don't know, nor am I interested in comparing, when you add up all the minutes, quantitatively, who is clocking in more hours, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that the Rabbanu Shalom, and I can't be sure, doesn't care. Rav Lichtenstein Zuchar Levrach explained that the idea of being Kaveya Itim LaTorah is, as some of the Mefarshim on the Mishna explain, the idea is to make Torah Ikar. We're familiar with the concept of Ikar v'Tafel. Ikar v'Tafel doesn't necessarily mean that the Ikar is quantitatively the most abundant ingredient on the plate. What it means is it's the most important to me. It's ultimately like what gives me the greatest sense of satisfaction and love in the world. This is not the first Siyum that I have had the opportunity to participate in, which Alden was part of the Siyum. This is obviously a Siyum that involves multiple individuals. Obviously, when we think about the Siyum Mishnayos at Shul that we do each and every year, so Alden's name has now become, associated with that in a very meaningful way. But I remember it probably was my second or third year that here in the Shul that Alden made a Siyum on Shas Bavli. And ever since then, he has always been involved in some limud of some sort, always with a sefer. And the same is true about each and every one of our assignments this morning. And it is absolutely incredible what can be accomplished over the course of weeks and months and years. I distinctly recall, I don't know if Dr. Benji is here with us, I don't know, but I distinctly recall when Benji, you started this initiative, And he felt that it was a point in his life where he felt that he wanted to contribute. And that's another great example. You know, a pediatric radiologist, you know, this is not his, you know, this is, what does he need this for? But he started a group and he said, let's go, let's see. And slowly but surely finishing one Masechta and another Seder. And here we are, 15 years later, give or take. I think it's a little more, but whatever it is, 15 years or so. And it's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely amazing what can be accomplished. So it's a tremendous chizuk to each and every one of us. I'll just conclude, not with a whole vort, but just to point out something which should be obvious to each and every one of us. We're now less than a week before Rosh Hashanah, the first of the Aser Simei Tshuva. The bracha every day in the Shemona Esrei, 3 times a day that we say, Hashem, help us return to you. We start the bracha, Hashivenu Avinu, L'so Rasecha. The connection between Torah and Tshuva is so deep and it's so profound. We can't speak about Tshuva separate from Torah, and we can't speak about Torah separate from Tshuva. The way that we return, the way that we connect ourselves to Hashem in the most meaningful way is through Torah. And so therefore, how fitting it is, how appropriate it is that we gather here now on the first day of Slichos, less than a week before Rosh Hashanah, the first of the Aser Simei Tshuva, to see a very living, powerful, and inspiring example of what it means, Hashivenu Avinu L'so Rasecha, a commitment each and every day. It doesn't have to be more than a few minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. But that adds up, and over the course of a lifetime, it's absolutely amazing what a person can accomplish. I just said I'm going to stop. I'm really going to stop. But, you know, sometimes with Schechter, he has this funny routine. He's not trying to be funny, but he does this thing where he says, you know, I don't understand. People think Torah is so big. What's so big? How long does it take? A person learns Mishnayos and Shas Bavli and Yerushalmi and, you know, in Mishna Torah and Torah and Shulchan Aruch and Nosei Kelim. You know, people listening to it, I don't know if you ever heard him do this. It's you know, it's all of a sudden he becomes so uncomfortable. But he's not, he's just talking. He's just talking seriously. But he's right. If we prioritize and we are kavei itim l'Torah, and we set a time each and every day to go ahead and to commit ourselves to a Torah project, it is absolutely amazing what a person can accomplish over the course of years and decades and a lifetime. And so therefore, thank you. Thank you to all the Messiahim. Thank you all, obviously, to the family members and all those who support this wonderful initiative. And Be'ezras Hashem, you should continue to make many Siyumim, and we should have these chus together for many future occasions. Hopefully next time we gather for the next Siyum, it'll be without this thing, but better with it than not at all. So thank you, and Mazel Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi Rothwax, for those beautiful words. So I'd like to go ahead and first of all thank my Chabrusas for their consistency, reliability, and dedication. All I can say is that this is quite an accomplishment. I want to thank any family members who have joined us here today and on Zoom as I dedicate my Siyum in memory of my brother Kevin. I also want to give a big shout out to my mother-in-law, who's here. She always reminds me how proud her father would be to see me learning Torah. And lastly, thanks so much to Evie, who essentially single-handedly planned and prepared all the food here. You're the best. So the second Mishnah in Uksin, which is the last Masechta of all of Shas Mishnayos, details some of the laws of parts of vegetables. The Mishnah discusses whether these extraneous parts of the vegetables are accessories to the actual vegetable, and whether they join together with the vegetable to become tameh when the vegetable is tameh, or will cause tumah to spread to other items that touch it when the vegetable is tameh. One of these accessories is described as a type of blossom on the end of a moist garlic, onion, or leek. So I'm not going to talk about vegetable accessories and garlics or leeks or tumah and tara. But the description of the blossom reminded me of a Devar Torah that I enjoyed reading and sharing a few months ago on Shabbos Parshas Korach. It's an idea of Rav Moshe Feinstein, that I feel is a lesson for all of us and is especially appropriate when talking about my brother, Kalman Ben Chaim, who lived a life that could serve as a model for all of us. So after the rebellion of Korach, where Korach and his followers questioned Aaron's position as the Kohen Gadol, Hashem instructed Moshe Rabbeinu to prove to all of Klal Yisrael that Aaron was chosen by Hashem as the leader. So Moshe asked that each shevet, each tribe, hand in a wooden staff, and then the 12 sticks were put into the Ol Moed overnight, each one marked with the name of the leader of that shevet. Hashem said that the staff of the chosen one would bloom overnight. So Perek Yud Zayin Pasuk Chav Gimel says, Vayimi Macharas, Vayavo Moshe lo el ha'idus, v'nei parach matei Aaron lebeis Levi, Vayotze Perach, Vayotze Tzitz, Vayigmol Shkedim. The next day, Moshe entered the tent of the pact, the Ol Moed, and there the staff of Aaron of the house of Levi sprouted. It had brought forth sprouts, blossoms, and almonds. So Rav Moshe Feinstein observes that there was an additional miracle going on here, besides the fact that it just grew overnight on a piece of wood that was not rooted in the ground. In nature, normally when a tree bears fruit, the blossoms are gone. They don't exist together on the tree. You never see both the fruit, in this case the almonds, and the original blossom on the tree at the same time. So what's the message of this additional miracle? So Rav Moshe's answer is as follows. The fruit of the mitzvah is its actual fulfillment. The blossoms of the mitzvah are the efforts and the sacrifices expended in the preparation to do the mitzvah. So these blossoms of Kedusha will never wither and waste away. The efforts and sacrifices made in the name of Kedusha endure forever. And this is in sharp contrast to the physical world, where in most cases, only the fruits of your labor seem to count. I often use the following analogy to describe a similar kind of idea. So there's a homeowner who does a major renovation on his house. The walls are demolished. The framers put up the beams. The plumbers run the pipes. The electricians install the wiring. The HVAC do their thing. The sheetrock, the spackle. Basically, you get the idea. The homeowner comes in after everything's said and done, or everything's finished, and he looks around. He sees a switch plate on the wall that's crooked. And he says, my God, what kind of contractor is this? He can't even get a switch plate right. So he can't envision or appreciate all the work that goes on behind the walls. To him, the fruit, the end result is only what he could see. All the effort, all the preparation that was put in to make the house strong and last long is secondary. So in Torah, the efforts are the blossoms that are cherished and last for eternity. In Kedusha, the effort and planning put into doing the mitzvah counts just as much as doing the mitzvah itself. And that's why the blossom and the fruit exist on the staff at the same time.
Blueberry full. That's love.
Oh, that's what you're
My brother Kevin accomplished so much in his 66 years on this earth. He really understood the importance of practice and preparation. I'm not sure he actually realized that you may be rewarded for the effort put in just as much as the performance of the mitzvah, but he certainly acted that way. When preparing for laning, he would review it over and over until it was just right. In fact, once on Shavuos, after hearing Kevin lane the Aseres HaDibros in his usual booming voice, a man in shul turned to me and said, wow, that must have been the way it sounded on Har Sinai. Kevin spent thousands of hours engaged in meetings and discussions when he was president of the Young Israel of Hillcrest, 5 different times for a total of 9 years. When he wasn't the president of the shul, he was often the main gabbai. And he was a gabbai's gabbai. He knew all the minhagim. He knew the right way to do things. He always had the answer, and that did not happen on its own. He was the organizer of the Shul CSS security team and was on duty almost every week. He spent thousands of hours preparing and getting in shape for Israel's Lynn Pediatric Hospital's 5-day marathon bike ride, 11 years in a row. He was also one of their best fundraisers, earning his name a prominent place in the hospital lobby. As a partner in Ernst & Young, his humble, honest, friendly, professional, and supportive approach to his colleagues, no matter how new they were, and to his clients, earned him a sterling reputation amongst his peers. Later on in his career, Kevin set a fine example for all when he announced to the partners that he would be wearing a kippah from that day forward. At that point in time, it was essentially unheard of that a partner at Ernst & Young wear a yarmulke. Again, Kevin served as a role model and made a true Kiddush Hashem. Lastly, when it came to sports, which was such a large part of his life, Kevin was a star athlete. He spent much time on the ball field at shortstop, taking batting practice, shooting hoops, taking wrist shots and slap shots. What does this have to do with doing mitzvahs or being a role model? Well, I know for a fact that he was surely a rodef shalom and oef shalom, a pursuer and lover of peace. And you know how guys could be on the ball field. So he would calm them down when there were arguments. He would break up those arguments and just made things a lot more peaceful. So just like the staff of Aaron HaKohen, which had blossoms and almonds growing together, the sacrifices Kevin made and the effort he put in to accomplish so much surely earned him a double reward in Gan Eden. He lived an exemplary life from which we can all learn so much. I'm going to introduce Ira Bauman.
We won't be able to go.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Zoom people. I'd like to dedicate this Siyum to my mother. First, I also want to thank Benji Tarragon. I think every morning when we learn, we also think of him because he was the inspiration behind this. It's his brainchild, and although he went in Aliyah, he still deserves schar each time, each time that we learn together. I also want to give a closer talk to my chavusas, especially now that they were learning in a different format. We're still going strong. That's good. Okay, I was going to say a quick thank you to Alden for making this, but now that I see how beautiful this is, I got to say a huge thank you to Alden and to Evie for such a beautiful spread here. Thank you very much. I also want to thank Newark Airport for not having an approach that goes over the law here, because every Mincha Marav, right? Every Mincha Marav outside, we always have, we can't hear because of the planes. So thank you, Newark Airport. Sefer Kachim, especially Sefer Taras, are very different than the other Sidros, and they elicit a different set of feelings when you learn them. The first four show us how to live a life that is consistent with Hashem's vision of how we are to act as Torah Jews. With serious study, we get a glimpse of understanding of this. Kachim and Taras, on the other hand, seem anachronistic and make it harder for us to see their relevance. 3 times a day, we say the bracha of Ritzay in Shemona Esrei. We ask Hashem to bring the Mashiach, and when he arrives, to return us to the service of Hashem that uses animal sacrifices and agricultural products. That, of course, would only be applied if we adhere to the dinim of Tumah and Tara. Okay. Now that we have learned these 2 Siddurim of Mishna, we also have a better idea of what that entails. So let me explain to you. When Mashiach arrives, how will my life be different? On Shabbos, I go to the bathroom to brush my teeth. On the way out, I b'shogeg, turn off the electric light. After Shabbos, I buy an animal, transport it to Yerushalayim, What should be slaughtered, flayed, disemboweled, and burnt. I return home and try very hard to remember next time not to turn off the light again. In my house, I probably have 1,000 objects that could be called a keli. Depending on their material and contents, they may be eligible to be tamei. The Mishna in Kalim describes the rope that attaches to a bucket that you use to draw water from a well. How much of the rope is considered part of the bucket, and how much is not? If the bucket becomes tamei, only that extent of the rope becomes tamei. Now, I have a food processor in the kitchen, and that food processor has an electric cord. How much of that electric cord belongs to the food processor? So that the food processor becomes tamei, that becomes tamei, and how much not? I have to know all those things. The Mishna describes a sifter that has 3 parts to it. The Mishna, this is Mishna in Kalim. It has the container on top that you put the food into, the sifting mechanism, and the container where the sifted material falls into, all right? Now, the Mishna says that 1 part can become tamei, and the other 2 parts not become tamei. Now, my food processor has at least 3 parts to it, which means I have to know, I have to be constantly aware of not only all the 1,000 kalim that I have in my house, which ones are tamei or could become tamei, even their components and how much also, how many of them are tamei also. And that's only a tiny, tiny part of what is involved now. And I think I would feel overwhelmed by the myriad of details and laws. Now, these thoughts are troubling because we don't want our longing for Mashiach to be insincere. Yet, I feel now that a more nuanced approach might be in order. Learning the dinim of Kodshim and Taharos is still important. It gives us a framework to achieve the goals of Hashem as regards our service to Him. However, the reality of the future scenario may be different. It may be more relevant to our 21st century world and still attain that same devekas to Hashem that a different avoda did 3,000 years ago. Rambam himself leaves us conflicted. On one hand, he calls korbanot a primitive mode of worship allowed to wean the Jewish people off idolatry. On the other hand, he prepares us for a future where korbanot are still brought. But David Kimchi, the Radak, brings a voluntary component to the system of animal sacrifice. He brings Pesukim from Yirmiyah, prove that, and mentions that the Torah's introduction to the laws of korbanot says, Adam ki yativ bikem korban l'Hashem. One of the definitions of the word ki is if. So therefore, it's possible, according to the Radak, that sacrifices will only be brought if we choose to bring them. Ramban stressed the important ethical lessons that can be gleaned from the details of the korbanot. Although a substantial part of the korbanot, the Torah, is devoted to korbanot and the dinim of Torah and Tumah, in order that we need to bring those korbanot, there is no reason to assume that those lessons can't be learned via a different medium. Whichever way we look at it, the goal of Mashiach will be the same. He is to provide a framework to make us more able to focus on our relationship with Hashem. There was a time where that took the form of the Beis Hamikdash, korbanot, and the laws of Tumah and Tara. How the future will look is open to speculation. Will it be exactly the way it was in the Bronze Age, or will it take the shape of something more acceptable to our 21st century minds? Hopefully, we'll find out soon. Next person, I think, last Mishna, right?
So I thought I would start off by first of all, thanking Alden and Evan for this beautiful Siyum. I'd like to, in the 15 years, whatever the time is, I didn't think it was that long, that we have been learning, you go through the entire Mishnah, and there are a few things that you find there you didn't realize were there, and it's just something that was very unusual, and I just found particularly interesting in that I never realized how these laws appeared. And I'm going to give 2 examples, rather unusual examples, but first one is from Maseches Sota, and it deals with the well-known saying, Kol Kol ha'melamed es bito Torah kilu melamdo tiflus. You've probably all heard this. It's a rather negative statement about the value of Torah for women, that if you teach your daughter Torah, it's like you teach her tiflus, which is translated as ritzos. And everybody's heard that. It's like Zalacha Moshe Messina. I always assume, well, that's what the Gemara says, and we have to get around it somehow, because obviously today we don't really accept this as a governing principle. And yet, what I found was, first of all, it's in Masechah Sota. So why is it in Masechah Sota of all places? Now, the context is the Sota, unfaithful woman, has to take this, she has to drink this special thing and have the special Megillah that's put into this water, etc. But so this is, Torah says that her belly falls down and all that if she is unfaithful. But then the Mishnah says, Im yesh la zechus b'satol. If she's got some kind of a merit, then the punishment be postponed. Yesh zechus tola shana achas, yesh zechus tola shnei shanim, yesh zechus tola shol shanim. Could be postponed 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And then it continues, Mikan Omer ben Azai, Hayav Adam Olamed is Bito Torah, Sheim Tishteh, Eidash as a Chus Tolala. So Ben Azai says this means that a person is required to teach his daughter Torah. So if she should ever get into this kind of a situation, she'll have this zechus and be the merit of this, at least her punishment will be postponed. So that's the first thing the Mishnah says. And then we have Rabbi Eliezer Omer Kol Melamed es Bito Torah Kilu Melam B'Tiflus. So it's very interesting, and I actually don't understand why we don't go back and emphasize the first statement more than the second. But that's the context there. It's something I never knew, and I learned this because we went through the whole Mishnah, and this is one thing that really made an impression on me. And the other one, which also is relatively unpopular, I guess how I say, Maseches Zovin. Deals with Zov, a person is a mission. So, the Torah says if you have this Zov, then these are the consequences, and that's what it seems to be. But then the Mishnah says, Shiva drachim bokin as a Zov, Ashelo Tizka Kaziva. You've got to check for 7 things. Why? Because possibly if one of these 7 things occurred, it's considered to be an ones, an act that's an accidental thing, and therefore he's not a zov. One of them, so 2 of them are ma'achal mishta, eating and drinking. So the Pashto is, one would think this means that if he eats certain foods that might result in this emission, or too much food. Okay, so that's the basic rule. But then we have Rabbi Akiva Omer, afilu achal kol ma'achal, bein ra, bein yofen. He ate any food, whether it's good or bad. B'shasa kol machka, or he drank any drink. So, amulo, ein kan zavim me'ata. Well, if this is a rule, you're never going to have a zov, because in every case, everybody eats something or drinks something, no matter what it is. So you could say, well, why do you have the ziva? Because you ate a tuna fish sandwich. It's impossible to have a zav in that case. And the answer is, Amar lahem, einach raya zav milechem. It's not your job to make sure we have zav in. And again, this is something that really struck me to be particularly interesting, how Rabbi Akiva is taking the position here that basically results in the abrogation of the entire mitzvah with zav. And he says, well, okay, I don't really care. That's what it is. That's what it is. So these 2 Mishnayos just somehow made an impression on me. And I thought I'd mention them here because it just shows you when you go through the entire Mishnah, you're going to find some things that are particularly striking and interesting. And those were 2 that I would single out. Okay, now the last Mishnah in Maseches Uktzim. Maseches Uktzim, the name Oketz refers to a stem, like a stem of an apple. And as I think was hinted by Alden or by Ira, the last Maseches, those Uktzim talks about, shall we say, accessories of fruits and vegetables. If a fruit becomes tamei, to what extent does a tuma extend? Does it extend to the stem? What about the peel? That's called the shomer. So there are different rules as to whether something is a yad or a shomer, and it talks about the laws of tuma tara, and it even goes somewhat beyond those specific things, because the last two Mishnayos talk about beehives, interestingly. I was thinking we should have Danny Center come here to explain those. He's a beekeeper, and the question is at what point whether a beehive is considered to be karka, which is kind of interesting. And the next mission talks about at what point honey is considered to be a mashka, a liquid that can be used to make something tuma. So at what point does this honey be considered a liquid? You have to take it out of the beehive first, and then how does that work? So then the mission talks about that. So the whole Maseches talks about Tumah V'Tara, and then it ends something very, very different. And so I will read the last Mishnah, and then we normally, when we study, we go over the entire Bartanura. In this case, while the Mishnah is not particularly long, the Bartanura extends over 3 pages. So I'm not going to cover the whole thing. I will read part of it. But so the Mishnah says, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Asira Kirsh Baruch Hu, Hanchil, Kol Sadik, Sadik, Sholosh, Meos, Vasara, Olympus. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says that in the future, Kirsh Baruch Hu will cause every Sadik to inherit 310 worlds. Shemar, Lahanchil, Ohavai, Yesh, Rotrosehem, Amalek. And so we have the word Yesh, and the gematria of this word Yesh, the Yud and the Shin is 300. So that's the simple explanation of that. All right, so I'll read a little bit of the part here. And he said, the term Avaz Mamar is that time. And why is this here? Because there's nothing to do with Tumah V'Tara. Well said, Arab the idea, the Chasimas Mishnah, the Matan Schorin Shal Tzadikim. The Lomdim will kind of call much Shana the Mishnah. So at the end of the Mishnah, we talk about the fact that Tzadikim who learned the entire Mishnah, and if they uphold it, they carry it in practice, this is going to be their reward. Masha Naka Rabbi Yehuda ben Levi, a full tzaddik. The Bar about us was Yosef, in an Oser Bein Amatir. The Zergam came, Tam Yaka, with Smoke Mamar Zebasima Mishnah Lomar, the Gam Shneim Hacholkim, all the Kabbanostam Moshemayim, all the Hashem. So he says, even though people disagree, one person may say it's usher, one person say it's mutar, and they have a machlokas. Nevertheless, since they have a kavanah of Shem Shemayim, they're considered to be all by Hashem. And okay, and then the next saying is, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafa, Lo matzah Kadosh Baruch Hu Kli Machli Bracha Yisrael El Hashalom. So Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafa says, Kadosh Baruch Hu did not. The only kli, and here we have it's interesting. We use the word kli Machli Bracha, a utensil that holds the bracha to Jewish people. El Hashalom. The one thing that's really most important is peace. And therefore Hashem holds them maintained. Hashem Yivarech Hashem B'Shalom. And so this is a really beautiful way to conclude the Mishnah. And I'll read a little bit here. Moshe Sidru Anshe Knesset Agol B'Tfilo. So at the end of the Shemon Esrei, the last bracha, and Baruch es Amo Yisrael B'Shalom. So we also want to finish the Mishnah with the word Shalom. And again, the Birchas Kohanim ends with Shalom. And the end of the Mishnah is like the beginning. Beginning of the first Mishnah, which we just learned again a few weeks ago when we started again. It's like Kohen as a first Mishnah is when did we recite the Shema every night? When the time when the Kohanim who became Kameh can now come and eat with food. The Hein HaMavorchim is Amo Yisrael B'Shalom. The Kohanim, the ones who people over the Haskalah, he does.
Come here.
The
What are you doing with that? Go down.
So another interesting thing, the part newer here, Taki says here, is that the first, the Mishnah begins with the letter Mem, and it ends with the letter Mem, and that stands for the 40 days that, the Mem is the numerical value of 40, 40 days that the Moshe was Sinai with the Luchos Rishonim and Luchos Hashanim, the acceptance of the three Luchos Hashanim. So, yeah. The Kohen Mishnah is Vitor about that. Kulam Amroa Epa Niklu, and Moshe Sinai Nem. So this is symbolic that the entire Mishnah is part of the halacha that was given to Moshe and Sinai. No, I think that's a fairly nice way to conclude this study of Mishnayos with Shalom. And I'd like to wish everybody a Shalom and a bracha of Shalom. And we're very glad we're able to complete this and to start over again and to relearn everything of the Mishnayos.
I will now do the Hadron. Hadron Loch Shita Sid the Mishnah of Hadron Halan. Hadron Loch Shita Sid the Mishnah of Datach Halan. Lon is Nashay Ninach Shita Sid the Mishnah of Lot is Nashay Ninan. Lo be Alma Hadain, but Lo be Alma Dosei. I have no an all Henu as the very Tawastaf, the Finu, the Theos, Amka Israel, Viniak Pulono, and after the set, so I never said, so I'm Amka Israel, Pulono Yodesh Mecha, Belomde, so Saf Lishma. Ayoi Baita Chachmeni, Itusacha, Ki Miliolam Hili. Ki Libenu Tamim, Kukecha, Laman Lo Nevosh. Ulam, Lo Eshkak, Kudecha, Kibam Kaisani. Rukatanoi, Landeni Kukecha, Amen, 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 Salavoed. So, what the monarch to Lifonacha, and all the Henu Veleva Senu, Samta Hokanum Yosh, base Medrash, Lo Miosh Vekavanos. So, on the Mashkim, the Hamashkim. On the Mashkim, the Torah, the Hamashkim, the Talem. On a mail and the Hamamelum. On a mail and the Macabam Scar, the Hamamelum, the Macabam Scar. On a Watson, the Ham Watson. On a Watson, the Fire Olam Bar, the Ham Watson of the Air Shafas. Shanema, Tar Alhim, Horidam, the Air Shafas, and Chetonim, Mima, Layakatsu, you may him, Ani, Eftach. Yeah. Well, what's some of the Fanaka and all the high, Kashemish Azatonu, the Siyum, Sisa said the Mishna, Hakta Zreno, the Haskell, Spar, Macherim, the Simon. Will model Lambe. Ishmael Velasquez, the Kayim is cultivate Tamu Tavasecha Biava. There's of course Kolatanoim, the Kamidecha from him, and his Karim, the Shesha Sidre Mishnah, Tamon, Alonu, Uzareno, Jalo Tomish, Hatova, Mipi, Mipino, Mipi Zareno, the Zera Zareno at Olam. The Hinsalacha, Tanka, or Saf, the Tishmo Alacha, the Hitosahis, the Sikaha. Ibi Yabu Yamaka, the Osifa Lafashan of Kayim. Oh, Kimim Mina, this Mola, Osha Bakavod. I know Oz Yamo Yutain, I know you work some more by Shalom. Kadab is Kadash Meraba. Your mother who also lives Kada, Riakaya, the Messiah, La Saka, Yasang, the Fire Alma, the Midnight Carter, the Jewish Lame, the Shakula, Hekla, the Gabe. The America, Pokana, the Nepra, Min Ara, La Saba, Pokana, the Shmail, Asra, the Yamlif, Kucha, Burfu. وما خص بكوري بيعصم في القناة بكور بشخيب بخيخون بمخون بخير قبيس السواء بعقوز مكري بنو أمين. هيش بيراب المروح ليولا ميومي مايا يسبرك يسبق 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 يسسي يستاب يسلي يسلوش من الفكرة بيرفو. لأن القاب بقاسة بشواسة تشكوسة بنخمسات أمام بيمار بنو أمين. هيش رباب نشماي بخاي ملين بقى يسوال بنو أمين. وسير شرمات يتشو ملين بقى يسوال بنو أمين.
Mazel tov, mazel tov.
Yeah, mazel tov, mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
have more food over there. I'm bringing out.
Mazel tov, Dr.
Mazel
King.
tov, mazel tov.
Sure.
He's gonna take this. Good. Wait, I have this. We don't need dessert. Yeah, you do.
Calm down. There you go.
She's scared.
Whoa.
Good.
Yes.
Got it.
But
Got
how am I gonna take this?
No, you're gonna eat it. No?
Okay, mazel tov, everyone.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna like my food.
Thank you so much. Yes, Rabbi, you want? You're trying to sabotage. You don't want me to look. You want me to bench person? Yeah.
You too. You too.
We'll see you, Mr. Shum. Thank you.
Okay.
You can tell. You can see if there's a number on there. You know?
Yeah. No.
Oh, wait, I have a plate of food for you.
Okay, I'm gonna end this.